I got it. What's going on, guys? We are starting hot and heavy. We are in the middle of a very, I don't want to say hot topic in terms of men discipleship and really going into the conversation today, vision, right? So Samuel, you were sharing a story. Let's get right into it. My sidekick, I couldn't think of anything better this
Yeah,
week.
no,
Dang
no,
it.
no, we're each other's sidekick. It
Yeah,
works.
go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. We play off each other, and that's great, right? So, I was just sharing this conversation about discipleship, and you were sharing about how discipleship is a little bit more challenging. You heard someone share that with you online, and I've had experience in that. And I live in a relatively remote or rural area. And to find people to run with, I think you can seek out discipleship. And to define that term for our listeners, what we're talking about is deeply rooted soul connections. So I would describe that as even closer than your ride or die. Um,
Mm,
you can have really close friendships, but I wouldn't necessarily call that discipleship.
mm,
So this is about pouring your life into someone else. And maybe if you're out there listening and you're going like, well, that is what I do with my best friend, then great. But I would say a lot of people aren't doing that. So just to define that term, what discipleship is. And by the way, I'm pretty sure, I think I looked this up before and we talked about it in a much older podcast, that disciple, its root is about teaching.
mm,
So you're teaching, and not necessarily always one level. To like, disciples are probably teaching each other, but there is an intentionality to this kind of relationship. So anyways, back to that intentionality, and we were discussing, like, is that harder or easier to do online or face to face? And
right.
my view is that it is easier to do it face to face. My wife was sharing with me for a while about being struggling with connections that I was trying to make online, and I talked about being in this rural, more remote area. So I have this perspective that says it's very hard work to do it online, and this is a hot take, but most men don't have that level of commitment or desire to make those relationships, this deep, deep level of connection and relationship online. Now, maybe that'll change with generations, right? Like, I'm nearly 50. Maybe younger people, because their whole world has been online, maybe that will be easier for them. But I would say Gen X and millennials probably find that level of connection easier face to face.
Yeah.
And think about it, Angelo, how many people just in general are doing it face to face? So then the commitment that it takes to do it online is even extra.
It's so true. Like, when you ask guys to get up in the morning and hey, let's go on a Zoom call, it's like it's not a normal part of their routine to get my laptop out, get my computer out, can I get my webcam ready? And it's like, but hey, let's go wake up, go to the park and let's get a workout in. It's like boom, easy. I know like the path to that. It's so much less resistance rather than having to get my equipment and my gear set up and all these things just to make it. We can try to get as close to in person as we'd like. We can try, but there really is no substitute to meeting someone in person and having that real, like that intentional discipleship, like you were saying. I think that's the thing with discipleship. It is an intentional thing. Like, I love that you made that differentiator where, hey, there's friends and then there's like, you're discipling each other. You're like this image of iron sharpening iron. It's not rubber sharpening iron or wood sharpening iron, right? It's iron sharpening iron. And that means there's going to be friction. There's going to be sparks. There's going to be things that do not work all the time and don't get along, but that's actually needed.
And that level of commitment, this, I might not be using the right word here, but the level of commitment I'm going to go with right now. So if you're going to go to a park and work out, if you're not there, that person is probably going to call you on it, right? So I think there's a little bit of that pulls you to it. Online, I think there's less of that that goes on. Like people aren't always like, "Hey, where were you?"
Mm,
I just think it naturally doesn't happen as much online. And the level of connection that you're going to have in a discipleship group online is different than, hey, let's go work out together, right? So it's more vulnerable. So again, I think that there's that difficulty, and I think vulnerability just naturally happens. I don't think it's just natural, but like if you're meeting face to face, you're naturally going to, like, even if you're working out together, hey man, what's up this week? And you're going to talk about this difficulty here, there. But if you're meeting online, you know it's going to get vulnerable. You know you're going to sit and talk because you're sitting here, right? So and men don't love doing that. So I think that's part of this extra thing that makes it more difficult, more challenging. And those of you that are doing it out there, either with us or with someone else, congratulations. You are a part of the 1%. If you're getting up in the morning, if you and or late at night or whenever it is, and you're diving in and deeply vulnerably connecting with a group of men, yeah, you're up there. Your game is on point.
it's all good. 'Cause if you think about it too, I mean, technology has obviously come such a long way since when I was using
When I used to
Skype.
do right
Exactly, exactly.
back in the dial-up days.
Right. When I first started my coaching business, like I was coaching clients on Skype. I bet you
Yeah.
people don't even remember what Skype was. And then Zoom opened up and that was decent. So but the thing is, just like you said, when you're in person, you can have like this non-interrupted conversation back and forth. But with this, I think, with the tech we're using now, it does a good job of really capturing the conversations. And people even say sometimes it feels like you guys are in the same room. Right before, when we would record the podcast live in person, obviously we're in the same room, so it sounds like you're kind of speaking over each other a little bit, and it sounds like a conversation. Right now, because we've transitioned to more online stuff, it still sounds like you and I are in the same room having that conversation. But most technology doesn't do that. It, like Zoom is one of those, like, you'll talk, and then if somebody else talks, you'll shut up, and then you'll hear their voice. So like this rhythm of a conversation is really
Yeah.
not the same.
That's
And
right.
instead of actually focusing on the things that you want to say, and what's on your heart, and trying to respond back with clarity and direction, like you would in a conversation, you're almost thinking like, well, now I can talk. Now I can talk because, I'm being muted, or they're being muted. And I didn't really catch the last thing they said because someone else said something. So it really interrupts that rhythm of conversation and thought.
This is just a piece I heard about, social psychology piece. There's also something that happens, and we can both do it in here, and all of us have experienced it on Zoom. Is the very mild, I get it, but mild anxiety, and some people have more of looking at themselves. So, like in real life, you aren't looking at yourself. And
100%.
you don't see
That's so
your
good.
inner, and you don't go like, "Oh gosh, I just touched my face 5 times," and, et cetera. "Oh gosh, that's weird when I smile like that," or whatever. And that's different than real life also.
That's so true. Actually, if people who've followed me for quite some time, if you guys remember my original podcast, I still have I'll actually show you guys right here behind the scenes. So I used to have this little monitor right here, and I would put that here because I have my teleprompter here with my camera set up, and I'll put that here. I would put a connection, and then now this meeting, I could have just had it on this screen, and now I'm looking directly into here, into the camera. Like I would put Samuel's face up here, and then
Yeah.
now I'm almost like, and that's, look at all that extra work I have to do to try to make this like a real thing, like to make it as real as possible. And sure, we could still do it. Just, it's a lot extra, but it does add that, like, wow, he's really talking to me. I'm looking directly into the camera versus right here. I'm still looking at Samuel, but it's still a little bit offset. So that connection is, even that, right? It's hard to really connect at someone who's almost just looking away from you, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But I love that we're talking about this because it does play into what's next for discipleship. What's next for men's group? You know, people are probably thinking, I thought we were going to talk about vision, but obviously we have to backpedal a little bit because to kind of paint the bigger picture of what's happening in today's climate, what's going on with tech, what's going on with other men's group. Like, so I really believe, I mean, even with Redwood, the next step is really going to be something live.
Yeah.
It
And
has to be.
listeners that have been with us and those that aren't, what I hope you'll think about in this podcast is what's your next step? What's your next level of commitment? Like, should you find a face-to-face group? And by the way, we're not talking about church. We're talking about, you can find a group anywhere. You can ask through your buddies, like, or in your neighborhood, or just listening to your heart and going like, okay, who's on my mind that I should be connecting with more frequently? Maybe it's a text thread, maybe it's a WhatsApp group, maybe, but if your heart is calling out for connection, and I believe most of our hearts are if we would stop and listen,
Mm,
what's that one next step that you should be taking? And yeah, it's probably going to be easiest to do that face to face, but there are other ways to do it too. And when I say easy, it's not going to be easy to connect, and it's not going to be easy to be vulnerable face to face. But what I mean by easy is it would be easiest for that experience probably to be long standing. It takes a little bit more effort to make that happen through text or through Zoom or through WhatsApp, whatever.
right, right, right. There's definitely, it's nice to have, the Facebook group and the group chats and all that, but it still doesn't replace the face to face, live, in person things. So, that's a little sneak peek of what we have, we're planning in the near future.
Brewing behind the scenes.
There's a little behind the scenes. So that's a little foreshadowing of what we are planning to have with the Redwood group and hopefully the near future. Just a little logistics we're trying to get figured out. It's not easy trying to get this thing together, but I think God knows our hearts and He knows what we're trying to do with this whole thing. So as always, I appreciate you, brother. I love how you wrap that up. What's next? What's
Yeah,
next?
what's next? Think about that. And what I wanted to say as we wrap up is I appreciate you and all the work that you are doing behind the scenes. And it's worth it, right? So, as we conclude, whatever you're doing out there behind the scenes, it is worth it. And no, you don't get the accolades for it. You don't get a medal, but it is worth it. So keep going.
I love that. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.